The following teaching is possible thanks to the friends and partners of Spirit and Truth Fellowship International.
Today, I'm going to talk about teachings that stick. I believe we don't want to just have good teachings. If you're a presenter, you want great presentations. And in order to do that, you need to make sure that your teachings stick. What I mean by that is something that people remember, that it causes an action, that is something that has sticking power. And if you think about this now, how many of us have sat in hundreds, if not thousands of hours of lecture in classroom, in college, work settings where they're trying to instruct you in things, and even churches on Sundays where the presenter gets up and gives a teaching or does a preaching. And yet, how many times we walk out and sometimes within hours, certainly days, weeks, and of course by months, we don't even remember what it was that someone taught. Yet I can tell you there are instances in my life where there's been a teacher, a presenter, who has put together a teaching in such a way that years later I remember it. In fact, I can remember some teachings from 20 years ago. As I was putting my notes together on this, I thought about a good friend of mine who 2 years ago made an hour-long presentation, and I remember that teaching. I remember the details of it. Why? What is it about that teaching that stuck and others that don't? And what I believe, a very important element, in fact, it's been proven, if you want teachings to stick, you need to make them relatable, and the way to do that is to incorporate stories into your teaching. Now think about this for a minute. I want to give you an example. If I say the hare and the tortoise, meaning the rabbit and the turtle, can you tell me a teaching that involves a rabbit and a turtle? Well, of course you can. You think about the rabbit and the turtle who had a race, and the rabbit took off like a speeding bullet, and the turtle just plodded along. But the rabbit got far enough ahead, he decided, well, I'm going to take some time and rest because after all, I've been expending a lot of energy. So the rabbit ate some carrots and he fell asleep on the side of the road, but the turtle just kept moving along. And eventually, the rabbit, when he finally woke up, the turtle was right at the finish line and the rabbit chased, but he couldn't catch the turtle and the turtle won the race. Now, that's a simple story. And how can I remember that story? Because it is a story. I never memorized it. I didn't work at it. I was told it, and I remember it. And the same is true with many things in our lives. We remember stories because they activate various centers in the brain. When I was talking to you just now about the turtle and the rabbit, I was talking about the rabbit racing ahead like a speeding bullet, and you can picture that, and you can see the rabbit, and you can see the hare, and you can see what they're doing. As I'm describing the action, your mind is actually activating a visual center picturing the action. You can hear, if I start using descriptive words that activate sound centers, you'll hear those in your head. And the same with when I mention eating a carrot, you picture a carrot, an orange carrot. You can see it gnawing. You can hear the sound. You can probably at a very low level in your mind, you actually could taste the carrot. The reason those stories stick is because of all of the activation in our mind with the various things going on. It creates a very solid memory peg because of the biochemistry, the neurons, and the complete mind being activated. Whereas if I transfer just information, just data, just tell you facts and things, or just go to a verse in my Bible, if I'm doing a Bible teaching, I just talk about that, and I don't incorporate it within a story and pictures and give you examples, then it's just activating the data center of your brain. And we can only take in so much of that. And it's hard to remember. Now, since my majority of my teachings are in a Christian context, I like to think in terms of, if you think about the Bible, if I mention some characters in the Bible, you'll know them immediately. Like David, and you picture things that happened with David. Remember the story of David with the Goliath? Or how about the prophet Nathan, who came and confronted David about his sin with Bathsheba? If you don't know that story, then go read it in your Bible. But Nathan confronts David by telling David a story. And the same thing, I mentioned the name of Joseph or Moses or Noah or Abraham with his son Isaac. And these are all stories. In fact, I believe that the majority of the Bible incorporates story, and the Bible itself is about a story that goes from beginning to end and all the action in between. A lot of times in Christian context, we think in terms of doctrine, meaning our beliefs and the embodiment of premises and things that are true about God and sin and all these different things. And doctrine's important, and of course we want to be right in our doctrine. But I would propose to you that the majority of your Bible teaches doctrine through story. It's not just premises written, although there are sections that do that, but even prophecies many times are portraying a picture. Think of Jesus and how he taught. People would say Jesus was the greatest teacher in the world. I've heard someone say, well, that was because he was a storyteller. No, Jesus was a great teacher. He incorporated stories because he knew that's what would get people. People relate to stories. Think about, you're walking through the cafeteria at school or you're at work and you hear coworkers starting to tell a story. What do? We all lean in. We want to know, what are you talking about? Because we are hardwired for story. We relate to each other through stories. When I meet a friend I haven't seen for a while, I say, hey, how you doing? What's going on? What am I looking for? I want to hear his story. I want to know the details of what's going on in his life. And the same with me. I want to tell my story. I go, hey, guess what happened to me? I come home from work and I say, hey, Lori, guess what happened to me on my way to work? I saw and then I repeat stories. We relate to each other through stories. We talk about stories all the time. And so if you want teachings that stick, we've got to incorporate stories. They don't have to be long. In fact, sometimes the shorter, the better. It's been proven that the mind can only take about 15 to 18 minutes of just lecture, straight information coming at you. But every time you tell a story, the mind actually is able to relax. I'm able just to think about the details of it because it's not work. I'm just hearing pictures and seeing all the different words in my mind. And yet I'm developing an understanding of a visual, concrete way of how to relate to the facts and the information that the teacher is presenting. And so I would like to give you some letters here, and I want you to think about these, and I want you to remember as many of these as you can. The first letter is J, and then FKFB. Then IN, ATO, UP, SNA, SAI, and RS. Now, who out there can repeat all of those letters back to me? I doubt anyone. I couldn't. What did I do? I just conveyed to you raw data. I just gave you information. But now, let me repeat those same letters, but I'm going to change the way that I say them. How about this? JFK, FBI, NATO, UPS, NASA, and IRS. Same letters, different context. The way I presented them the second time is they created mind pictures if you have those schemas in your head. For instance, JFK, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, our president who was assassinated. Or FBI. We all know who the FBI is. I just say FBI and you picture the law enforcement institution. Or NATO, That's the North Atlantic Treaty Organization in Europe, with a collection of all the countries who came together to defend themselves against the Soviet Union in the Cold War. How about UPS? Big Brown, we all see UPS trucks, and NASA, sure, North American Space Agency, or IRS. Well, we certainly know who the IRS is. See, same letters, but the second time I gave you them, I put them together, and I actually put them together in a way that would trigger pictures or schemas in your mind. So, as I conclude this teaching, number one, incorporate teachings. Learn how to be a storyteller. There's lots of good resources out there. And the only way you get to be a good storyteller is by telling stories. And learn, and you can even get friends. And so learn to incorporate those. They don't need to be long stories, especially they shouldn't be in your teachings. Make a point and then say, let me give you an example. Or open your teaching with a story of something that you can personally relate to. People love stories when they have three very important parts. The Greeks discovered this. We call it ethos, logos, and pathos. Ethos is my ethics. Am I a credible storyteller? Am I telling something? The best way to have ethos with people is make it first person. Make it a story of your own. Make it something you experience, and people will relate to that. Logos is just the information. Every story has information, and you're conveying it. And pathos is the passion. It's the emotion that you can bring to it. And for stories to stick, they've got to have pathos. It's been proven. You've got to be able to reach people emotionally, and we need to activate all those things. So as we move forward, I want to encourage everybody to move teachings from good teachings to great teachings. We don't want to just educate, meaning in the sense of just transferring knowledge, but our teachings need to inspire, they need to encourage, they need to cause people to rise up and act. Otherwise, we're just thinking in our heads, and that is not what the point of teaching is. The point of teaching is to get people to act, to change, to move, and to incorporate the information that you're trying to present to them. And the way to do that is to get your teachings to stick, and the way to have a sticky teaching is to incorporate storytelling.